Slow.
Right.
So we got a real special episode of Black Group Therapy today. As you can see, it's like more of us than usual, right? And we did all of this intentionally, right? Because what we're talking about is global. It's not just international. It's not just local. We want to talk about the relationship between our brothers and sisters over in the African diaspora, right? And over there on the continent, and us being here in America, and a lot of the stereotypes that some may believe have been placed upon us to keep us separated, right? One of the things that me and Labo were talking about when we were coming up with this topic was like, you know, how can we approach this this subject with not just talking about the problem, right, and everybody leaving talk within their own feelings, right? How can we approach this and talk about the problem, but also walk away with the solution, right? So, like one of the first questions that I have, and anybody can answer this: do you all think that it's possible at all for us to just really even have a global African utopia, so to say? And I know it's a loaded question, but don't everybody answer at once.
Honestly, I think it's definitely possible. You know, it just requires patience and persistence, and also spaces like this where we actually talk together about it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because the topic at hand is literally an ocean apart. You know what I mean? It may be hard to, grasp understandings all the time. But this year was the first time I traveled back. I'm originally from Kenya. I was born in Kenya. Okay. And my mother's from Kenya. I was born in Kenya. My father's from Chicago. So that's how I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're American.
I'm Kenyan. I'm African American.
Okay. Yeah.
So this year was the first year I brought a friend from Chicago to Kenya. And to see him just like look around like wow and learn so many new things that he didn't have an understanding of before. And you don't have to fly over the ocean to see that, but I could see as he spoke to other people and had his culture shocks and all of that, he still went back home loving Africa, even with it was a misunderstanding.
What is it that you think he got? Like, what was it, right? I hear a lot of people say, like, man, when I went to Africa, I just was like, I came back just like an enlightened person. I'm like, nigga, what?
It's a humbling experience.
I think, yeah, you said, that was 100% right what you just said.
Humbling, how?
A humbling experience to...
No, speak.
I think for him, and even for me when I go back, see, I was born there, but I spent most of my life growing up here. And to go there and to understand I think the humbling part is going there as a visitor and being taught this is how we do things. You know what I mean? And not necessarily in a way like it's better or whatever. It's just like very welcoming. There's a very community kind of feeling there that makes that is like people want to know where you're from. People want to know what you know.
So when you say like humbling, because like when y'all said humbling, I was like, do they mean like, oh, I see the way that they live? It makes me thankful for whatever I have. That's what y'all meant.
I mean, to a certain extent,
in an extent, yeah. Because I mean, like there are stereotypes about Africa being poor, whatever, But it's you go there and you see it's just as developed, but there's some resources that some people wish that they had, but they didn't. But here you can get it like that. That's why we met like 2015, and you saw me at like we did every open mic that you.
Yeah, we was on the same.
And I realized I had went back and I saw the artist scene there, and they didn't always have that opportunity. Like public transportation is different. You know what I mean? And it's not a very good people don't like really CTAs. You know what I mean? You live in Chicago, but at the same time, like there is like sometimes things are all the way on the other side of town, and I had a car. You know what I mean? That I was able to save up with some money to go and drive to.
But so I guess but
I think if I can jump in, one of the biggest humbling thing for Americans when they go to Africa is to see that, yes, infrastructure-wise, we're way more developed than what they had initially perceived, but then there is still poverty, and our poverty is a different type of poverty to what poverty is here, right? And so you see, like, our poverty in Africa, in essence, like, I was telling you, like, the first time someone took me to the hood, and they were like, this is where the poor people stay. I was like, poor where? Because infrastructure-wise, you've got a brick building, you have running water, you have electricity. Yet, even though we don't have that necessarily in the villages, in some of the hoods, even in some of the places, in some of the countries in Africa, there is still a community aspect to it. There's still, like, we will give you our last loaf of bread.
Yeah, type of
thing. Like, it's food for us isn't something that we're going to, like, hoard and keep for ourselves. Money for us isn't something we're going to hoard and keep for ourselves. If you have a bigger need than I do, then here you go. And there's this, like, spirituality and understanding that, you know what, if I identify as God or a higher power, will provide for my family and for us the next day. There's just this, like, tangible belief in that, and you see it happening.
You know, like, I don't know, maybe I have too many ties, right, in the like Afrocentric niggas who never really been to Africa but know everything about it community, and they be like, yo, we gotta go back home. And then, like, I talk to you guys, right, who are from the continent, and I hate to say it, but I'm not really getting, it's like, yo, we here. So, like, are you all saying, like, you all are happy to be, there's more value in America than it is in Africa?
So we're all from different countries, too.
Yeah.
Like, let's establish that, right?
Okay.
So he's from Kenya. I've probably been to Kenya when I was a little kid, but I don't really necessarily remember. That's Eastern Africa.
Right.
I'm from Central Western Africa. We're not as developed probably as maybe a Kenya or a South Africa or even a Nigeria where she's from. Unfortunately, even though we had a period where we were growing at a progressive rate, I was born here though. I was born in the States, and so that's why I'm pretty much here. And my country, the way it is, we don't have dual citizenship. So
you either American or
that was the ultimatum that I was given. Like, it's either you choose to remain in Cameroon, or you build a life here. And so even when it comes back to doing business in Cameroon, it's a lot harder.
So you chose here, or?
Well, I'm born here, so it's
okay.
not, it wasn't necessarily a choice for me. I mean, I would have to give up my American passport to go and be in Cameroon.
Wow.
So let's talk about the relationship, right, that Africans from the continent have with Americans, right, born here. I know coming up, one of the big things in the community was like, man, they don't even fuck with y'all. They don't even like y'all. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, man, every African I met seemed cool. You know what I'm saying? And then, like, they be like, man, they think y'all lazy. Y'all, I'm like, I never heard no, you know what I'm saying? Like, do y'all think that, do y'all have any family members who feel that way about African Americans? Do y'all feel that way? I mean, whatever. Like, have y'all heard that before?
It depends on the generation.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was just about to say. This the
number one
generation.
thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how old everybody is, but
Right.
I have older sisters as well, and there was a time that, I'm sorry to say it, but
So y'all did? So y'all was on bullshit?
There was a time where y'all were on bullshit.
Right.
There was a time where y'all on bullshit.
Who? How?
Don't think all the African booty scratchers.
Where was we on bullshit?
I remember.
We was never.
Wait, dog.
We were never.
John, when we was kids,
What?
especially in high school.
But we used to be on board. You ain't have to be African. You just had to be black as hell, and we was calling everybody black as hell. I used to get called black.
No, it was a different level.
What about booty scratcher?
Right.
Huh?
Yeah,
Booty
I
scratcher.
I might
I can't say right, exactly. You gonna tell me I never heard?
They butchered our last name, first of all.
Hold on. I feel like everybody speak. Go ahead. What you should say, bro?
No, go ahead. I'm gonna let him finish.
Yeah, no, so, though I was born here, I moved back to Cameroon. And I lived in Cameroon from age 4 to about age 12. And I came back and they threw me in public system.
Yeah.
I went to middle school up north and everything. I'm talking about I had the African accent and everything.
Yeah.
And the mannerisms.
They was
So
talking
like
shit.
when a teacher asked a question, we used to stand up in class like I got the answer or all of that stuff, and you dealing with, inner city kids.
Yeah.
They make fun of you.
They roasted.
They was heating your life.
Hey, it's heat season. You
Right.
feel me? And that's
So tell me, how did that affect you growing up?
So the advantage that I had though was I was born in the States, so I was always a cool kid back home. The kids in my neighborhood in Cameroon always used to look at me like, oh, that's, you know what I'm saying? So coming here and that happening, it was like I want to fit in. I want to get there. I want to talk like them. I want to. So you know what I'm saying? It was a survival thing as opposed to being depressed.
I can relate to that a lot because I moved to Chicago. We moved to Roseland directly from Kenya.
Oh, y'all was.
You feel me?
That was
Wow.
I was on 107 and King Drive. On top of that, my father had us go to school in the Oakdale Gardens.
Oh.
You feel me? I went to school in the
When you
Catholic
went
school.
to what's that, Carver?
No, Our Lady of the Carver was there. I went to the Catholic school. Our Lady of the Gardens was.
All Lady of the Garden.
Yeah, you feel me? And so like, I remember first I should add that English it sounds like it's my first language now, but it was actually my second. I spoke no English.
So it was hard for you.
When I came to the States, you feel me?
You call hell.
It was
Call hell.
The first school we went to was actually in Rosen, and I got kicked out of that school because the teacher was just like, yo, you guys gotta stop speaking Swahili to this kid because he's not understanding. So he sent me to the Gardens, and it was an all-black school, and I did not fit in. I was the African kid in an all-black school. It was weird to me because I saw people that looked like me, but they isolate. So for the first part of my life, from 2nd to 8th grade-ish, I was so ashamed of being African. And black people made me feel that way. You get what I'm saying? It was hard. But later on,
Not
I
black
understood.
people, dumbass kids.
Dumbass kids.
You can't like a whole culture.
Dumbass black kids.
I'm not gonna say that.
I'm not trying to brush over it, but like we gotta remember, like kids be doing, but it's kids.
Their parents too.
They parents too.
No.
So I remember where your
And
mom
what's
was
even
at
fucked
that
Hold on, we gonna let somebody else speak.
No, I get what you're saying, and that like
It's kids.
in hindsight, kids like they have no sense of like understanding at all. Like,
Yeah.
And for kids, it could have been anybody of
exactly
Anything that's not normal about you, they be like, look at this.
exactly or perceived as normal.
Yeah.
They
But-
have a
Yeah,
problem.
so it's like, yeah.
But the parents too though.
No, well,
What did the parents do?
I live on the west side. That's where we stayed at, off of Karlov and Division Pulaski. That section, you meet grown people that don't have no knowledge of the continent. We Jamaican to them or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm
We
gonna
just
put that on West Side people. Just for I'm from the South Side.
You got dumbass folks. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
but before
Who all are African? Who all are like African
I mean,
What you mean?
Like from the continent.
African, you know what I mean? Goddamn, don't try to trap me.
Because like some of us are born here, born somewhere else in Africa, but
who all have?
So whoever got an accent, just raise your hand.
what?
That's kind of like what you said, though. That's what you was just trying to say.
All right.
Okay.
No,
Get used to
I went for it.
I have an accent and everybody keeps telling me I'm British.
Yeah.
Like accents don't
That's
really
how they say
matter.
the accent
Okay.
does not. Because
Yeah,
I'm from
I have an
Zimbabwe,
accent,
born
but
and
I'm
raised.
from
Okay.
France. So it's like
You from Zimbabwe? You
I'm
from
Nigerian.
Nigeria? All right,
I
let's
was
hear
born
from
here though.
let's hear from the women. What has been you guys' experience in America dealing with us?
I definitely was called an African booty scratcher when I was younger.
Damn.
Why not?
I definitely was. I definitely was. I don't know. What'd you say?
No, I think my
Yeah,
experience
so-
was like came later.
Yeah, so I went to school here. I went to a Catholic school. Like I was born here. Everything.
Were you called that by black kids?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I went to the all
That
black
was black
like
kids that
grammar
said that, not
school.
white kids.
That's because we felt like, you know what I'm saying, like, man, you know.
I was definitely.
Where did that even come from? African.
You know what? You know
I feel
what?
like it was used in a movie. And
It
kid,
had to be
I
an
remember, I vaguely, I don't remember what movie, but I vaguely remember hearing it in the movie. And then all the kids started saying it. I was like, that's not nice.
I called her
Yeah,
African.
That's
kid
why you
that.
start saying.
What you say?
But he used
Hold on,
One
hold on,
time
y'all,
in
hold on,
self-defense.
What you say back
He
there?
came for me.
I was gonna say media has a lot to do with how kids perceive people in different countries.
Very
Facts.
true.
So you have to understand, like as kids, what we watch or what we were trained to think about people from Africa. You know, like when you look on TV and you see people from even now in 2019, like you don't see like a well-developed country, and you still see commercials of like kids starving and stuff, or even when some people reference people from Africa, they still, even comedians, you know, I know it's their job to make jokes, but they still make jokes of African people. So I feel like it has a lot to do with how we were raised and also a large part of like what we saw in media.
When you have a continent with so many resources that the entire world wants, of course they're gonna tell us to hate it because they don't want us to go over there. They don't want us to.
That is an excellent point.
They know how
That's a
powerful
very good
Africa
point.
is.
I was saying it's 500 years of being conditioned to hate ourselves, not
But they
just.
use it though.
Yeah.
They use it.
Right, because like, is that when a kid calls you an African booty scratcher, are they insulting you more than they're insulting themselves? Because they still African.
See,
All the kids that called y'all African booty scratchers were Africans.
But they create division.
Regardless.
Then there's division.
You see what I'm saying? They talking about themselves.
yeah.
It's like the house nigga versus field nigga.
Yeah.
And I understood.
Who is that talking?
No, I was gonna say
Go ahead.
that I see it from a slightly different perspective. That it's also that African Americans, we have a brash sense of humor. We joke harshly with each other sometimes, especially children. Can be very like it's not just black, because you'll see it in like white culture, other cultures, but there's also this very cool way of
Hurting your feelings is funny to us.
right.
That's how we-
And making people feel
It's
bad.
cool or funny, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to make light of it though.
You guys would agree? Like Peter, Nola, Kim, Manny, like I feel like that's every black culture.
Yeah, no, we
like,
did it back home
we did it too.
Yeah,
It
we did it
just
back
was
home
in a
too.
different language and in different
Yeah.
setting.
So you all called
You
each
know what? I
other?
kind of agree with that because I had this conversation with someone and they used the same argument saying, well, they're kids, they're just joking around. But I think we took it personally.
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
see someone who's like you, who's telling you that you're different and like push, like, you know, isolating you because of that difference. So I get it, they're kids, but it is, I think the humor is different. Because he was like, oh yeah, you know, we joke around like that, we do that. But I don't know that we joke around the same. I think we do sort of like pick at each other and stuff, but there's a slight difference
But that's
where
what I was
we're not
gonna
like
say is,
completely like, you know.
yeah, but that's what I was gonna
Isolate
say is
someone.
we'll joke around, but when someone different comes into the community, we don't ostracize them because they're different. And I think that there is, like, for me growing up at least, I remember like the breakfast table was where we would talk about what's going on globally. People don't have that mindset here, whether you're Black American or white American. That mindset, America is the world. to Americans.
Yeah.
Whereas everybody that comes from different continents or countries, we understand that we're part.
And that like when you all in Africa, y'all have access to like global news, right?
We do too.
We do too.
But listen,
it's just not,
no, not really.
It's not as publicized.
Right. I mean, we do, but not really.
It's Americanized global news.
Yeah.
So it's only the interests of America that you see for the most part, unless if you're being intentional about going to like Al Jazeera
Yeah, I was gonna say Al
BBC or
Jazeera
Sky
is-
News or whatever. Other,
Right, like
you know.
here, I know I wake up, I turn to channel 7, I turn to channel 6, channel
You don't get American
You know what I'm
news.
saying? We watching local news. We watching morning news. Like this morning, the nigga traffic will be stopped up for 30 minutes. It's like this is what's being given to us, and I'm not trying to place the blame, but I'm just saying like how much control do we really have over our perception of each other?
Yeah, it's not entirely you guys' fault. I'm not.
Yeah. It's
I think now we have a lot more.
Yeah.
I feel like at this point we need to stop using that as an excuse because like I'm saying those channels are there. You have the internet as well. Broaden where you're getting your news from. Like are you going to Fox News to get your news? Probably not, because you know that you're going to get a certain message. So figure out where you can get like.
Let's talk about that. I mean, like how many news outlets are there, and how many of them do Black people own? To even be able to like paint ourselves in this positive light, But what's interesting to me and what I want to kind of like talk about now was like in my book I've been noticing that like it's cool to be African now.
That's what I was getting
because of the movie.
Yeah.
I be seeing African dudes get hella play. I be like, who's this black ass nigga?
I was getting there. Like as I got older, I realized like not only what you guys were talking about, like the humor of American culture is different. It's a little bit more harsher. Cause now every time I be seeing people, that like tease me every day and be like, we was just playing, right? I was like, I took it personally. But then I understood.
You affected me personally.
But looking back, it like it wasn't so bad, and also like just I guess the that perspective of what everybody like has access to with with the news and the TV and all of that. You don't see a lot, but yet back home, like she was saying, you see everything. Like they know I went back one year and they was asking me about like they knew more about American politics than me, and I'd be like,
oh, they do.
I'd be like, what? I don't even.
That's another thing. We idolize African Americans being kids back home. We love jungle music. We love everything about y'all. So coming here, knowing all the rap lyrics and thinking we can fit in, when you start making fun of us, like we kind of shut down. Like these cool kids are not inviting us.
That could be a shock to you all.
Absolutely. Because we looked up to it's
really.
definitely a culture shock because we're like, those are our people over there. We know the stories. They grabbed them, to slavery or whatever. If we come, we probably gonna be like one unity, whatever. And like,
On behalf of all black kids 12 and under for the past 30 years, I apologize.
Yeah.
I mean, turn your phone off.
Stretch it to 14 at least.
Yeah, okay. But
Give them 8th grade. Give them up to 8th grade.
I don't want to make light of like the hazing, not the hazing, but like the teasing that kids did, because I think that you all are strong, right? But like, I guess everybody isn't. So, do you know or have you heard any stories of like African kids coming over and being teased so much that it kind of like broke them? You know what I mean? And like, just like completely turned them off, like. Because to me, like, I've never, like, I'm speaking, like, from a limited, like, perspective, but, like, I've never seen, like, a weak African. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, because your family is going to put you straight. Like, you're going to be like, no, like, you better than them. Sorry.
That's what they say?
Well,
see, I be nigga. I be trying to put us together, y'all be on that bullshit.
So, that's another thing we did have. We had a lot of community at home, you know what I'm saying? Most of our families were still together, mom and pops, like most African families that came here. Like we have a strong sense of family. So, and if you lived on the continent too, you just lived a much harder life than out here.
Mm-hmm.
So if teasing is not really gonna get you just completely off your square, like, and then today's kid gets teased even when they outside of school. So they got the internet, they get teased. You know what I'm saying? So it's a continuous thing that happens. So it's much easier for you to break down. Kids today are just not as strong as we were back in the day. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah. Sad.
You know, a lot of times, like, we say, like, all right, kids here, like you said, like, oh, we know their story. They were snatched up. They were brought here. They were, you know, slaves and, you know, all that shit. And it's like, we come here and we seem like we got it together. But on the flip side, it's like, man, do we really have it together? Do we really know what we're up against? Do we really know what we're dealing with in terms of the societies that we live in, right? Over here, over in Africa, right? But like speaking specifically to the African American experience, and y'all can, you know, talk on and tap into this as well. I want to hear from y'all. Like, do y'all think that we have like some form of Stockholm syndrome when it comes to just like how we view ourselves in this society?
You should explain what Stockholm syndrome is for people that don't know.
So it's pretty much like, let's just say like somebody kidnaps you, right? And they keep you in their basement for like 400 years, and and you begin to like that basement.
Right. And defend it.
Man, like, do you think that
it's internalized self-hate, basically.
Yeah.
Like I would talk about, like, I think there is a degree of Stockholm syndrome in everyone, right? Like when you've been oppressed and you finally get the opportunity to oppress someone else, you may not be thinking of it consciously like that, but that's what you do. Like, I'll even talk about, like, as a South African, what's going on in South Africa right now. It's this, like, oh, we were oppressed, they took all our resources, now we're going to blame someone else for us still being in the state of poverty, when that's a lot of bullshit, you know? And I think, if we're going to get to the root issue of the division between Black people globally, we gotta look to colonization and the tactics that were employed to colonize us, right? So tribalism, Stockholm syndrome, this whole self-hate is something that was embedded in us through colonization, through slavery, through apartheid. All of that has contributed to where we are at as Black people globally, in my opinion.
Somebody else on this? Go ahead, Candace, and then I can't see these lights. All right, 10, and we're going to work our way around. Go ahead, Candace.
I definitely believe there's a Stockholm syndrome because growing up, I remember how majority of Black women did not like their hair in their natural state. Like, we didn't rock fros when I was younger. We got made fun of for rocking fros even if we wanted to. But now growing up, I love my afro, you know, I wear it outside. Like, we used to perm our hair, we used to put all those chemicals just burning the hell out of our hair and our scalps just to keep it straight. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, like, there's definitely been a shift, but growing up, I do remember, like, the hair situation, being called nappy-headed was a thing. Now it's just like, shit, hell yeah, I'm nappy-headed. You know? So, you know, it's like we took that back. We took being nappy-headed. Like, people used to call us that. We took that back, and we proud of our hair and how we look. We proud of our dark skin. I was, you know, like, I was black as hell when I was younger, and I was being made fun for being dark. You know what I'm saying? But growing up, like, now I'm like, yeah, my melanin popping the whole time. So, yeah, that's that.
But I think we stand on people's shoulders of that, right? It was a lot of work that like was put in, like, to make us, like, and a lot of us still kind of like fighting that shit, right? But go ahead, Tan.
So the question is, do you feel that
we have Stockholm syndrome?
To a degree, but I feel like it's a little bit more complex than that because it wasn't a basic.
Speak up too, because we got the mic right here.
I'm saying I don't think that it's that simple because it wasn't a basement, and we have progressed and we have built something.
Mm-hmm.
So
we built this whole country.
Right, we built this whole country. So it's not so much as only what the colonizers gave to us, but we still used our own minds and our innovations and who we are to build and invent things. You know, we have a stake in this country, even being oppressed.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying to have love for this country isn't necessarily a bad thing because it was built by the blood, sweat, and tears of our ancestors.
The only thing about it is like America is a little bit more unique than other places because it's one of the places where we're not like other places. They colonized those places and they left, and the people are still there. They still have some tie to where they come from.
Oh, they still tax.
We were uprooted, and we are left over. We don't really know directly what our ties are. So our stake in this country is our love for this country. I'm sorry. So when you think about America and patriotism, it's really white people who get to be very proud of this country because they step on everybody and they're on top. To be proud of this country as a black person is not as easy because there's no acknowledgement.
Yeah.
There's no acknowledgement. And everything that black people have now, we still have to fight, still have had to fight for what we have. It's not like, oh, you know, we were wrong and this is the best we could do. It's not like what Germany did to the Jews. It's not what other countries have done and saying, okay, we was wrong. We can't give you everything, but we can give you something.
Yeah.
It's still today they won't even apologize to Colin Kaepernick.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So there is no, to me, there's not a lot of patriotism, but at the same time, I can't ignore what W.E. Du Bois did, and I can't ignore what Harriet Tubman did. I can't ignore what they fought for and what they built, and the fact that we built the the gas mask, the refrigerator, the green, you know, the street light. We did that. So you can't just turn a blind eye and say I don't love this country because
I got you. Ooh, you just want to say something?
Yeah, I really agree with that. I'm not from here. I was born and raised in France, but my parents from Cameroon too.
Okay.
But for us, it's not even a fight, but I understand like how here is a fight because it's not really, I don't think it's the white people country neither, you know? Like they also colonized like the native. And then just like they brought you like, so I don't understand like why it would be theirs. But like for me, for example, like, and all like the black people in France, when the French people, they're like, so for example, like here when someone asks you like, where are you from? Like I was really shocked by that question when I first came because I would see like Asian, I would be like, where are you from? And he's like, Texas. I'm like, come on, man, like, where are you from? because in France it doesn't matter. Like I was born and raised in France, but then when someone asks me where I'm from, I cannot say Paris. They're gonna be like, no, where are you from? Like that. So I have to say Cameroon because that's my origins. So I feel like it doesn't really like for us. In France, like black people, we already know it's not our country, you know, because we know we migrated. But I feel like it's different here, and it should be different because it's not their country. But it's like we agree with the French people.
Well, I think it's different here because it's like if it's anybody's country, it should be ours. You know what I'm saying? Like,
if it's anybody's country, it's the natives.
The natives, actually.
But you got me. We're the only group that got an invite to stay. Is what it was.
But if anybody else's country, they don't want it.
Like what she said. Speaking on like what she said.
Mexico is right on the right.
Like
what'd you say, bro?
Like speaking on like what she said. Like I went to London and I got that same vibe. To where I found out like because even with the Irish or the black people there, like there's a difference between being British and being English. Like the white people who are from there, they consider themselves English, and if you are not of that lineage or that whatever descent, they call you British, and they discriminate against those people.
Yeah.
And so that was something deep that I learned from like Irish people that I met there, and black folks. So they never ever really feel like it's their land or their country. And then speaking on the whole Stockholm syndrome thing, I feel like, doesn't it relate to you having like some sort of irrational love for your oppressor?
Yeah.
Because if so, I think we fear our oppressor more than anything.
Nah, we love them niggas.
No.
I think we.
Yes.
You see
Black
how I
people
grew up?
love white people.
All throughout. That's survival.
Let's let some people who haven't spoken.
If you went
Hold on,
to
y'all.
any black
Hold on, y'all. Let's people who haven't spoken say some stuff. Sil, who haven't spoken and want to say some shit.
Let Peter finish his thought though.
Okay, go ahead.
No,
Do your thing.
I felt like that was more so like survival, right? Trying to fit in more so. Because if you go to most black homes, it's not like they sitting there praising the white man. They're like, man, cracker, and all that. Like, you know what I'm saying? But when you get outside of those homes, they'd be like, that's why we invented Ebonics. We did all of that type of stuff so we can have our own community or try to get away, like, and then have to act up in public when we're with, our oppressors, because we need to survive. We need to be able to survive. So that's how I pretty much viewed that as opposed to.
Let Sil go, and then Akila, I see you hold. You like. Okay, go ahead, Akila.
Y'all hilarious. I don't really feel like it's Stockholm syndrome, only because our masters intermixed their DNA with ours and then treated their offspring better than they treated us. So it forced us to believe that if we became lighter, we would be treated better.
Mm-hmm.
So in return, it was a form of reverse psychology opposed to Stockholm syndrome.
But then, really, like, it didn't force us to believe that. Like, that was actually the truth. If you became lighter, you were treated better.
Yes.
Not just by them, but by your own people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't really consider that Stockholm syndrome. That was a trained thought. That was survival. And I mean, the first law of human nature is self-preservation. I wanted to survive.
So are you saying that like Stockholm syndrome to a certain extent is just a survival tactic? Like you have to find something to like. Hold on, I'm just asking a question, right? So are you saying you have to find something to like within the oppression that you live in order to survive?
Natural state. I don't feel like.
Because that really makes sense to me.
No, we were raped.
Okay.
So you know the black people who.
Can we come back to you? Sorry, let's quickly go to Sylvia.
Okay.
And then.
We got you.
Actually, I was going to say that I did feel like, and this was my initial thought until you all broke it down, so you got somebody who's flipping. I really did. In my opinion, I felt it was Stockholm syndrome, right? Like wanting to look this way, and I still feel like it may be a couple trinklets out there that have it, like wanting to be lighter or wanting the hair to be straight or just wanting life better because if you're white it's better. So I think it goes beyond a little bit, like for some the whole survival mode, but I absolutely get the survival mode. Like this is what I have to do in order to like survive and fit in to get where I'm trying to go.
So you have to find something to like. Go ahead, Ace.
When listening to the breakdown of Stockholm syndrome and everything, I feel like there are black people who are dealing with Stockholm syndrome. People dealing with this right now that we're talking about isn't necessarily that. So you were talking about the basement. That means that if this person was in the basement for 40 years or something like that, and if they were given an opportunity to leave this basement, they would say, no, this is my basement. So in that aspect, I feel like what we're talking about culturally, people want better. We want to get something better than what we're already dealing with. But the percentile of people, the ones we call Uncle Toms, the Uncle Ruckuses, you know what I mean? Those would be the Stockholm syndrome.
Right. Yeah.
Those would be the ones who voted for Trump, who did all this extra stuff. You know what I mean? And we're like, why would you do that? That's not for the people. That's not that. Yeah. I feel like they're more on the spectrum of Stockholm syndrome than the average black person.
But don't you think that like there's different levels of Stockholm syndrome? Like they might have like the highest, like most like extreme level of it, right? But I think if I'm being completely honest, we all have to a certain extent, Stockholm syndrome. You know what I
would say
mean?
We all have a level of trauma from.
But that's a part of it.
But the Stockholm really encapsulates the love for your oppressor, like this gratitude, like.
And tell me,
because you had to. Like,
so
it was good for me that you hurt you. That's Stockholm. You understand what I'm saying? That's not me saying, you know what? He'll stop raping me 3 times a day if I do this. He'll only do it once. That's different from Stockholm, where now I'm making excuses. Now I'm defending you. Now I'm seeing any type of abuse as some level of like favor or goodness bestowed upon me. That's different.
So you're saying that pretty much like we act like we're happy, but most of us act like we're happy, but deep down we're still resentful and.
Oh yeah.
Resentful to a level, but I mean we're not in a good space. I mean we're in a better space, but we're not in a good space. And me and Citizen was just talking about this of how even we treat how black people treat their children. It really replicates how slave masters treated slaves. Like, I can treat you any type of way because I house you, feed you, clothe you. Like, and that you'll find that same type of treatment. So I think that we're coping with it. We're still living. But it's not the best life.
Gotcha. You was gonna say something, Sean?
No.
I think
I just got
let's move on from Stockholm syndrome just because we gotta move on with the podcast. And let's talk about so we can talk about our differences and our experiences of being oppressed, whether you're African or African American, by each other. The reality is that has happened from each camp. There are misconceptions from each side. But how do we, now this is our generation, right? We can sit and talk about all the problems, but what does that accomplish? How do we then move forward as a black community? Point blank period, globally. What does it look like? We think of what's happening with the presidents of Ghana inviting African Americans back to Ghana and even saying, if you can trace back your heritage to being Ghanaian, you can vote. You know, is this something we should be encouraging African Americans to do? And what does that transition look like? Because if we think of when this was done before, at the end of the Civil War with Liberia, African Americans got there thinking they were better than the locals in Liberia and oppressed locals in Liberia. So how do we not get that kind of situation if we're going to integrate again? And what are the steps?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I feel like that would be a massive undertaking, and you would definitely have to have some kind of program that essentially dismantles the preconceived notions of both sides. Because how as an American we think like Americans, and like you all were saying, we're not everyone is as communal as you all said in Africa. So that's different. It's our views on how society should run is completely, because we've been in a capitalistic society for so long. We feel it should go this way, and anything else, people are naturally going to be resistant to it because it's different and it's new. So you would have to dismantle our whole idea of normal on both sides, and then you would also have to come into some understanding of just a cultural understanding of and find some kind of middle ground in there. I almost feel like if it was a thing that was similar to how they did with Liberia, it's almost like it's better if you get a small group in their own community that's kind of eases them into okay, every 3 or 4 years this is gonna change. That there has to be some kind of
let them be the examples.
Yeah, because it's a lot to take in. If I've grown up, all I know is America. So everything from food to clothing to dress to slang, I'm learning. I have to relearn all of this, and it goes the same way. Because you can't. I mean, because it's unfair, of course, to think like, oh, and then all African American people from America just have to like completely change themselves. So it definitely has to happen on the other side too. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, in America, this is the norm. This is the slang. This is how we talk and type thing like that. Yeah, it's a lot. You have to try and adjust, and I think it comes down to the people kind of have to find a middle ground with each other, like what works, and that's the difficult part.
Okay. A question to you though, bro.
Yeah.
Like going to Africa, I just got back from there like a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of different cultures from different countries migrating to Africa and setting up there without knowing the languages, without knowing anything, and going and being successful in business out there. The Chinese are taking over practically everything, and they do that everywhere, right? They come here, they build a Chinatown. You go to Chinatown right now, you won't understand nothing on none of the. You don't even know where you're going. You're just completely lost, right? Yeah. Is it possible for African Americans to gather a group of people and be like, we can move to Africa and at least start off by building a community out there where we don't necessarily have to change our languages or whatever, but be able to contribute to the community or contribute to society? You know, like, is that a possible move for starting? I think
you would have to get a very specific group of people, and also like I think what I was anybody. Yeah, you definitely can't just grab anybody.
You can't grab Pookie and
I think I think like the difference in how I was thinking about it. Like when Chinese, like you said, or any group like that comes and sets up, I think their purpose is more of like, I'm building, like, I don't necessarily need to be a part of this. I just need the money. It's a transactional thing. Like, this is what I need to do in order to be comfortable and live here, but I don't necessarily have to interact too much, because like even if you look at how Chinatown is made, like it's kind of like walled in and sectioned off. Like even to get into like the main part where it's the stores and everything, it's a huge wall and an arc and everything. Mm-hmm. And it's really like if you've never like taken the time to go through there, it's like a maze. Mm-hmm. It is like it's almost made with the purpose of like, this is for us, it's not for anybody else. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking more of like,
but don't we kind of need that though? Like even here in this country, like if we are more independent and we're responsible for our own businesses and all of that. Isn't that one of the best periods that black people had?
Do y'all think that we're looking at community through too much of a European lens? I think like when I think of Africa, with it being so many different countries, right? With it being so many different tribes, who's to say that's a bad thing? Maybe our ancestors realized like, yo, mass culture is never gonna work. We can't have billions of people operating under one law. Right. Like, yo, they have their community, they have their country over here. These people believe in this. Leave them the fuck alone. Let them believe in that. Over here, these people believe in that. Leave them the fuck alone. Let them believe in that. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe our ancestors didn't have it wrong. Like, yo, if y'all over there fucking up, that's y'all over there fucking up. We over here not fucking up. You know what I mean? Maybe they understood that you can never have everyone on the same page. But if you have like-minded people around you, be it 100, 1,000, 100 million, y'all get together and figure out what it is y'all want and work towards it. But like the whole, you know what I'm saying? Let's try to get this one world government thing.
Yeah, I think that's what
I think maybe that's where we as Africans and African Americans get it wrong. It's like, yo, I got a lot of people in my family who I just can never fucking work with. We just don't, our spirits ain't on the same frequency. You know what I'm saying? But then I got a lot of friends who I'm like, yo, we building, we family, we, you know what I'm saying? We in the same tribe, we in the same village, let's do this. You know what I mean? So like, when I look back, and really when I speak to this topic, I'm like, yo, I don't think we can really ever acquire this global African utopia, because white people run the world and they still ain't all together. They still fighting each other. They still
but they have one short thing.
I mean, when it comes down to being against us, so maybe we need to like
have some camaraderie.
But
Yes.
Like we can fight all day, but like when a white person come in the room, be like, get it.
Yes.
I'm with that.
Like Black Panther.
Yeah.
And then after that, you reprimand the other person.
But that's not something that they was taught. It's just something that was never broken.
No, I feel
so. It's like it's
like,
natural.
I feel like to some degree that was taught, because if you go back like even to slavery, like one thing they don't like to talk about a lot was like the race riots where it was black slaves and white slaves, and that's why they put in place white overseers, because they used to treat the white lower class terrible, and like at one point, and then the Irish, and then the Irish and black slaves joined together and revolt, and it was one of the worst things that ever happened. And so then they were like, oh no, we can't let this happen again. Mm-hmm. So they're like, we're going to make Irish people the overseers. Mm-hmm. Make them think, oh, they're better than them.
Right. You see, there's still unity in that though, in whiteness. There's still unity in the whiteness, because now Irish people cannot even begin to tell you about the traumas of coming over as a slave. Mm-hmm. They don't have to deal with that because they've been accepted as part of the community. Right.
I saw Ace, you had your hand up. What you just want to say, bro?
Like a few sentences back, we were just talking about connecting, right? Just bridging the gap of communication between different cultures, whether it's American or African. And I think one solid way of doing that in today's era is technology. It's gonna have to be on some fucking app, on something that the kids is gonna think is cool and fun and trendy. It's like a news outlet. Going back into the beginning of the conversation, when we were like, oh yeah, Al Jazeera. We're not looking at Fox. But what are we looking at? What news outlet? What outlet of media do we have that black people vouch for? And we can say across the world that we're looking at this, we're tuned into this, and because this is like our voice box at this point, we don't have that right now. And I feel like the power of that type of media that actually promotes black wealth, that actually promotes black success, that's paramount. And I feel like it has to happen eventually, right?
You made an interesting point. Who was going to speak?
No, I was going to say, I think we do have that outlet. For example, this area here, what we're doing here, this is just the beginning of it. You see other black people, African people doing more podcasts. You see more of that now. I definitely feel like there's an evolution of more of a community and a togetherness that is just going to be just phenomenal. Just that I see growing right now as far as our culture. Like we're becoming more conscious. At first I believe it was more of a popular thing, but now I'm seeing that to some people, more conscious people, it's a necessity right now. That a lot of us are grasping like this is.
So they fake conscious out here, huh?
This is what we need to do. So I think what Ace was saying, that we need that, but we're having that. So it's important that we continue to support each other at gatherings like this, that we continue to do that. And I see it that it's just going to continue to evolve. Just be great.
Dope.
Let's not forget, Africans need healing too. They've been oppressed for years and years. Like countries like South Africa didn't even get independence until like 91.
94.
Oh, 90. There it is.
Damn, even longer, huh?
You know what I'm saying? So we need healing too before we can even talk about the African American.
Hold on. She's been trying to speak. So we got the soft-spoken people. I gotta speak up for them. Go ahead.
I'm just listening. So my point is to do with just this connecting, and I think each person sort of mentioned this idea of gaining understanding.
Yes.
We don't need programs, we don't need technology to gain understanding. I think it's a changing our mindset. We have technology. These can be tools that we use, but we need to know that we can do it right now. Go and read up, go and Google an African country and learn about it. Go and Google African American history and learn more about what they went through. I mean, obviously, know your sources and be critical about what you're reading, but even the dialogue, like we can start right now, and it's just about hearing each other out. I think there's so many things. Yes, we can also blame our oppressors for sort of feeding us with these misconceptions about each other that would have resulted in us not, getting along as well as we could. But we can unlearn that if we decide that we want to unlearn that. And it requires understanding each other better than we currently do. So first of all, I encourage that. Secondly, there was another point I wanted to make. I've forgotten. And
It's okay.
It
happens.
I just want to quickly say, like, I think one thing that we make a mistake of doing is when we refer to Africa, we refer to it as if it's one country. Because, like what Peter was saying, is that, like, yeah, Africa as a whole continent needs healing, but it's very specific in each country, and then it's also very specific in each tribe. Like if you think of, I mean, let's talk about the trauma that Rwanda went through with the Rwandan genocide, but not a lot of people realize that started in Burundi. And so Burundians also, so like we gotta also be very aware of each other's traumas, or if we're not aware of what is caused, be willing to listen and understand that just because Peter from Cameroon, or Maney, or Kim from Zimbabwe, it doesn't mean you understand Africa. Like I, as a South African who was born and raised in South Africa, cannot stand here before you and act like I understand the continent, because I don't. It's just one of those things that I'm very aware of.
And that's something else that I wanted to bring up, is when we're talking about African Americans going back to Africa, wherever it is that they're deciding they want to go, I think you have to ask yourself, what are you going for? What are you looking for when you're going there? Because I think, like we sort of had the trauma of coming here and realizing that we were different. There's a chance of that happening when you spend enough time there, realizing that, like we're saying, they're tribes. And even within those tribes, there are differences where, like, they differentiate us. And so I think it's about learning first about, before saying you're just going to pick up and go and learn about it. But I would say first, it also starts with self-love. One thing that I wish more African Americans would do is realize how much they're admired, how rich your culture is, how deep it is. And I feel like I just can't emphasize it enough, because I know that people are still looking for something more, but I'm like, what you have right now is so powerful. People want it all over the world.
And we think the opposite.
And you think the opposite. A lot of the time you do. And I'm like, my God, you have so much to offer the world. And people see it. People steal so much from your culture, right? Like, you also have a lot to offer as well. So I think start with that self-love. Learn about elsewhere. See, you know what? You might not even like it. To your question, I love Zimbabwe. I'm living here because it was a traditional family to go abroad for college. And I sort of grew up with like a more global mindset of like, just exploring. I'm really restless. I've lived in like a number of different states here in the US, and I just want to travel. So it's not that I don't love where I'm from. I try and go back home every year. I do, and I have this African business where I'm trying to feed back into the continent as well. But I do love it, and I don't necessarily have to be there to love it, which I think some people sort of imply. But yeah, I think love yourselves, and then learn more and see if it's going to benefit you to go back or stay here and just build what you have.
Cool. So we winding down to like, we got like 5 minutes left. So I see hands up and stuff. So like, I'm definitely gonna let y'all speak, but like try to keep it like under a minute and shit. Okay. 45 seconds if possible. So Will, Taisha, Tan, Pete, I seen you had your hand up too, bro.
No, I'm done.
You done, bro? You done prophesizing, bro?
I'm right in my mouth, bro.
Oh man, you great, bro. Go ahead, Will.
I don't like to talk much, so I will keep it short. I would just say, like, for all of us being African Americans, can we start even acknowledging the fact that we're not purely African, and that a lot of us have a lot of other things in us, like Native American.
Oh, nigga, don't start with that. I got Indian in my family. What you got in your family? Let me take your head off. Let me see your head, nigga.
It's a real thing. That's facts.
Like you got to think about it. Like, if you are an African American mixed with a lot of different things, and you researching African diets and all this different, shit, like, what about everything else that's in you? Like, you gotta know everything that's in
African diet is the best diet.
You said keep it short, so I'm gonna say what
That's
so,
also to my point.
as far as concepts, right, like putting concepts out there for different people. Remember when we was little and your people used to teach you like one fight, all fight? We need to start putting that concept out there. Like, say you go to one of them parades and you get into it with one of them white people.
they gonna jump your ass. You feel me? You feel me? And that need to be like that with all the us. Like one of the motherfuckers come in here, we all beat his ass.
You just a
real
thug,
shit.
man.
Like, hey, I support you. That's you feel me? Because it's like that until the school shooter situation.
Right.
I think it's bigger than that. But
he looking like that because he know what I advocate. But I also advocate for people to go get their gun cards. Go get your concealed carry.
Absolutely.
Learn how to shoot a gun.
Absolutely.
Learn how to
Speaking on camaraderie,
Yes.
I mean, you know, that's what we need.
all right, go ahead, Tyson.
I was just gonna say, ultimately, the conversation that we're having is, like you said, to eliminate whatever, what is it? Whatever stereotypes that we have against each other, and how could we, like, basically come together and understand each other and just live cohesively.
Self-sufficient.
Right. So, first, I just wanted to say that I agree with her. We need to do research, understand. And two, I believe that as an adult, we are responsible. As children, the children that we have around us, we are responsible to just pay attention to them and things that they say and, things that they take in and shape and mold them to understand, like, different cultures and not to be how we were. Yeah. Calling people,
African booty scratchers.
Yeah, that name, calling people names. So I think we hold that responsibility,
cool.
And
So,
I'm hoping that's what
10 real quick, then we gonna do you Akila, and then everybody else good? Y'all thought about something else to say? Okay, alright, then you, and then we gonna close it.
The last thing that I was gonna say is, I know that it may not be that kind of global society, but some sense of peace and camaraderie. And approaching each other with respect. I think that if both groups come and say, I don't know everything about you, I'm figuring out things for myself, but I respect you, and I want to understand, that's what it's all about. And if, African Americans want to go back, then fine, but there has to be some camaraderie. Because we see color and everyone else sees color. They don't see, oh, you're from Cameroon, oh, you're from Texas, oh, you're from Nigeria, they see brown skin, light skin, that's it.
Yes.
And I wish that our people, and I'm speaking for, black people, that we would, not wish, but my prayer is that we would kind of have some camaraderie amongst ourselves. When they say, like, you can't just take anybody, we are unfortunately divided within ourselves.
Right.
But, so you have your conscious black people. Those be the people that you got to start with.
Gotcha. Go ahead, Akila.
Oh, I don't have nothing serious to say. I just want y'all to know that, like, I did the research on African booty scratching, and it actually came off the movie Boys in the Hood. That's why everybody knew exactly what it was. But that's all I had to say.
So we did.
Well,
but that's when we came up with a lot of
stuff. I think that movie like 20 times, and I don't remember that.
Yes, when he came up to the desk to talk about, like, he was gonna teach the class, and he was like, "Y'all know what this is?" And she was like, "That's Africa. I know what that is." But that's
we was a little kid. Alright. Yeah, that movie probably did it.
Probably. And everybody saw that movie.
Yeah, we gotta take that. But that was John saying.
Alright.
So I just wanted to go back to what Will said about, acknowledging the other blood that African Americans have in them. I think that's part of the self-love, right? You don't have to love why that blood is in you, but that's part of your story. And as it's probably easier for me to say, but for example, I was, in Zimbabwe, we were colonized by the British. I have a British accent like Libo does, and people will, I'm sure you've had the same experience where people are like, why do you speak English so well? Why do you speak like British? You speak like a colonizer, and you get sort of this, I don't know, whatever it is, misunderstanding about who you are. And I'm like, look, man, that's my story. That's who we were colonized by. This is how I speak. But I still love who I am and my people. I don't love what the colonizers did to us, but it is part of my story. Yeah. And so I just want to say, like, I think it was a good point. I think that's somewhere to dig through and sort of learn to embrace, also for health reasons, because you never know what risks might come with that other side of it or something, you know.
All right, so you know we've come to the end, and you know, like always, in Black group therapy tradition, we always start out just like, you know, easy, but we always end up at this place where it's like, damn, I thought I knew, but now I need to do a little bit more research. Now I need to, you know what I'm saying? Now I need to dig a little bit deeper. And that's what I really love about Black group therapy. We got so many more people who just joined our family, and I want to thank y'all for coming out. So real quick, I want y'all to go through and just say like y'all social media, because people probably gonna want to like, you know, find you and follow you and stuff like that. So starting with you, X.
I'm Citizen X Got Bars on all social media, IG, Facebook, all of that.
Hey, hold on.
We gonna put it down on the screen too. Go ahead, bro.
Let's go.
I really don't put anything on social media.
Say this, guys.
I'm not an artist, so it's like I don't think that.
All right, nobody follow him. He's the police. He's the police.
It had to be that one person.
Go ahead,
I'll let him get his shot.
you could have just cooperated, and then we would have just would have been over with.
I'm in a room. I mean, I fit in, right?
No,
But
you look like
everybody
a
is
police.
artists. So that was a whole networking thing you just pulled.
I'm not an artist. I'm not.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But that was still a networking
Okay,
thing.
it's all right, man. We forgive you.
We got love.
Go ahead,
I'm Nola Ade.
They came for 12.
Wait. Let's give Nola her time.
Hold on, y'all.
I'm Nola Ade on Instagram and Facebook. NOLAADE.
She sang.
Yeah, she sang with an A.
She's singing on Friday.
Oh, on Friday, yes.
Oh, yeah, she
singing
is
on
singing.
Friday with Peter.
That's an every
gonna be
Friday
there.
event, right?
No.
No?
Okay. Just it's. I think they do something every month, but
Every
this,
month.
this
Friday.
Passport Vibes, they're doing like a live show element this time.
Okay, yeah, we'll be there.
And I'm Real Rick Africa, so REALRIC Africa.
The Loop 2150.
We want to definitely give a special shout out to the Loop 2150 for opening their space and allowing us to do this podcast here. They so dope, and yeah, go ahead.
I'm Shaitulani, CHAITULANI on all social media.
Yeah, that's my brother.
Can you do that one more time?
We can write it down, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be on the
okay.
screen. It's gonna be on the screen.
I'm just Maney New on all social media.
Yes,
That's
yes,
it.
indeed. Cool.
Yeah, Prince Jericho.
He can sing too, y'all.
Hey, bro.
Talk like a singer.
That's funny.
That is funny.
Go ahead, Ken.
And I am at its_the can.
Yo, and you know who I am. I'm John the author, the rapper who sat by the door. You can follow me on social media at John_the author. This is Black Group Therapy. We are out. Peace.
Peace.
Oh, I need some